The rain pelted against the abandoned mining station's corrugated metal roof like bullets from heaven. Deep within the shadows of the supply depot, something stirred among the rusted machinery and forgotten tools. A low, mournful sound echoed through the empty halls, not quite a whimper, not quite a roar, but something heartbreakingly in between. Maya Chin adjusted her environmental suit's headlamp as she stepped through the airlock. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing decades of dust and neglect. As the chief engineer for the Terran Colonial Expansion Project, she had seen plenty of abandoned facilities, but this one felt different. The Kepler 442b mining operation had been shuttered 3 years ago when the automated systems failed, and nobody had bothered to investigate why. The sound came again, clearer this time. Maya froze, her hand instinctively moving to the emergency beacon on her belt. According to the manifest, this facility should have been completely empty. The atmospheric processors had failed months before the evacuation, making the air toxic to human life. Yet something was definitely alive in here. Following the sound deeper into the facility, Maya's boots clanged against the metal grating. Her suit's sensors detected trace amounts of methane and sulfur compounds, normal for a failed terraforming operation. But there was something else, something the sensors couldn't quite identify. A faint heat signature moved ahead of her, always just out of sight. The main processing bay opened up before her, a cavernous space filled with inactive ore crushers and conveyor systems. Maya's light swept across the room, and she gasped. Huddled behind a massive piece of machinery was the source of the sound. A dragon. But not like the majestic creatures from Earth's mythology. This one was small, no bigger than a large dog, with scales that shifted between deep purple and midnight blue. Her wings were folded tightly against her body, and her golden eyes reflected Maya's light with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. The creature was painfully thin, her ribs visible through her scales, and one wing hung at an odd angle. Maya had heard about the draconian species from the Outer Rim colonies. They were supposedly intelligent, proud beings who lived in great clan structures among the asteroid fields of the Vega system. This little one was far from home. Easy there, Maya whispered, slowly removing her helmet. The facility's emergency life support was still functional in this section, and her suit's readings confirmed the air was breathable, if a bit stale. "I'm not going to hurt you." The young dragon pressed herself further into the shadows, her voice barely audible. "Nobody wants me. I bring only shame and failure. Please, just leave me to fade away in peace." Maya's heart clenched. She had studied xenolinguistics at the academy, and, while her draconian was rusty, she understood enough. The little dragon spoke in the formal dialect, but her words carried the weight of absolute despair. "What's your name?" Maya asked gently, settling herself on the floor to appear less threatening. The dragon's eyes widened in surprise. Few non-draconians bothered to learn their language. I was Zephyra of the Crimson Claw clan. But I am nothing now. An outcast. A failure who cannot even die properly." Maya studied the creature more carefully. Zephyra's scales were dull and flaking in places, signs of severe malnutrition. But there was something else, burn marks along her neck and shoulders, deliberate and precise. Ritual scarring. "You were exiled," Maya said, not making it a question. Zephyra's head drooped. "I failed the trial of flames. When a dragon cannot breathe fire by their 18th molting, they are cast out. I am defective, broken. The clan elders said I was cursed by the void spirits, that my presence would bring misfortune to all." The pieces began to fall into place for Maya. Dragons were fire breathers by nature, their flame production tied to specialized organs that developed during adolescence. A dragon who couldn't produce fire would be seen as fundamentally broken by their society. "How did you end up here?" Maya asked. "I stowed away on a cargo freighter after my exile. When they discovered me, they dumped me here rather than deal with the paperwork of returning a defective dragon to Vega space. That was many months ago. I have been living on scraps and condensation from the old food stores." Maya's anger flared. The casual cruelty of leaving a sentient being to die alone on an abandoned world was exactly the kind of thing that made her ashamed of some members of her species. But there was something else bothering her about Zephyra's story. "Can I take a look at your throat?" Maya asked. "I'm an engineer. Maybe I can figure out what's wrong with your fire organs." Zephyra recoiled. "You would waste your time on a broken creature?" I am beyond repair. Even the greatest dragon physicians declared me hopeless. Humor me, Maya said with a gentle smile. Humans are pretty good at fixing things that everyone else thinks are broken. With obvious reluctance, Zephyra extended her neck. Maya activated her suit's medical scanner and ran it over the dragon's throat and chest. What she saw made her frown. The organ structures were all there, the flame sacs, the chemical mixing chambers, even the ignition glands. But there was something blocking the primary duct. Zephyra, have you ever had any injuries to your throat or chest? The dragon's eyes grew distant. When I was very young, maybe my 5th molting, I fell into a crystal cavern during a clan hunt. A shard of razor glass pierced my throat. The healers said they removed all the fragments, but they missed one, Maya finished. Her scanner showed a tiny piece of crystalline material lodged in the exact spot where it would block fire production. It's not that you're defective, Zephyra. You have a piece of foreign material blocking your flame duct. It's like having a pebble stuck in a pipe. For the first time since Maya had found her, hope flickered in Zephyra's golden eyes. You believe it can be fixed? Maya grinned. I believe it can be removed. It's a delicate operation, but I've done microsurgery on plasma conduits before. The principle is similar. She paused, studying the young dragon's face. But first, let's get some food in you. You're not going to survive any kind of procedure in your current condition. Zephyra's eyes filled with tears, actual tears, which Maya hadn't known dragons could produce. Why would you help me? I am nothing. An exile with no clan, no worth. Maya reached out slowly and gently touched Zephyra's snout. The scales were warm and surprisingly smooth. Because everyone deserves a chance to be whole. And because. She smiled, humans have a terrible habit of adopting strays. Over the next few hours, Maya set up a basic camp in the processing bay. She had brought enough emergency rations for a week-long survey, and Zephyra devoured them with desperate gratitude. As the dragon's strength returned, she began to open up about her life before the exile. Dragons, Maya learned, were indeed highly intelligent and technologically advanced. They lived in vast clanships that moved between asteroid mining operations, their society built around family honor and individual achievement. Each dragon was expected to master both their natural flame abilities and at least one technical specialty. I was studying stellar cartography, Zephyra explained between bites of protein bars. I could map hyperspace routes in my head, calculate jump coordinates faster than most navigation computers. But none of that mattered when I failed to breathe fire. That's incredibly stupid, Maya said bluntly. You're telling me your people threw away a brilliant navigator because of a medical condition? Zephyra looked shocked. It is the way of things. A dragon without flame is like a star without light, unnatural, wrong. A star without light is called a neutron star, Maya countered. And they're some of the most fascinating and powerful objects in the universe. Different doesn't mean worthless. As night fell on Kepler 442b, Maya rigged up a heating unit to keep Zephyra warm. Dragons, she learned, were cold-blooded and relied on their internal flames to maintain body temperature. Without fire, Zephyra had been slowly dying of hypothermia in addition to starvation. Tomorrow, Maya said as she settled into her sleeping bag, we're going to take a closer look at that obstruction. And then, we're going to figure out how to get you home. I have no home, Zephyra whispered in the darkness. Maybe not yet, Maya replied. But everyone deserves one. The next morning brought new challenges. Maya's survey shuttle had limited medical equipment, and performing microsurgery on an alien species was far beyond its capabilities. She needed proper facilities, advanced imaging equipment, and, ideally, someone with actual medical training. The nearest human outpost was the research station on Kepler 442c, a 3-day journey by shuttle. But Maya's mission orders were specific: complete the mining facility survey and report back to Colonial Command within the week. Taking a detour to help an exiled dragon was definitely not in her job description. Maya looked at Zephyra, who was carefully examining the defunct mining equipment with obvious technical knowledge. The dragon's assessment of the facility's problems was more accurate than Maya's own preliminary report. Despite her claim of being worthless, Zephyra was clearly brilliant. I have a proposal, Maya said finally. Come with me to the research station. Help me with my survey work, and I'll help you get that obstruction removed. Zephyra's eyes widened. You would take me with you? But, I am an exile, a non-person. Associating with me could damage your standing. Let me worry about my standing, Maya replied. Besides, I could use a good navigator for the journey to Kepler 442c. The gravitational fields around here are tricky. For the first time since Maya had found her, Zephyra smiled, a surprisingly human expression that transformed her entire face. I would be honored to serve as your navigator, Engineer Chen. As they prepared to leave the mining facility, Maya reflected on the strange turn her routine survey mission had taken. Colonial Command wasn't going to be happy about her unscheduled passenger, but Maya had never been one to follow orders blindly. Sometimes doing the right thing meant bending the rules. Zephyra proved to be an exceptional navigator. She guided Maya's shuttle through the complex gravitational interactions between Kepler 442's multiple moons with an intuitive understanding that impressed even the shuttle's navigation computer. More than that, she was excellent company, intelligent, curious, and possessed of a dry sense of humor that emerged as her confidence grew. Your species has a saying about teaching fish to climb trees, Zephyra observed as they approached the research station. Dragons have a similar concept. We say, do not judge a crystal's worth by its color alone. I think I am beginning to understand what it means. Maya smiled. Sometimes the most valuable things are the ones everyone else overlooks. The research station on Kepler 442c was a small but well-equipped facility dedicated to studying the unique ecosystem that had developed on the planet's tidally locked surface. Dr. James Park, the station commander, was initially skeptical about Maya's request to use the medical bay for an alien surgery. This is highly irregular, Engineer Chen, he said, studying Zephyra with obvious curiosity. We're xenobiologists here, not surgeons. And, operating on a member of a spacefaring species without proper authorization could create diplomatic incidents. She's in exile, Maya explained. No clan protection, no diplomatic status. And, if we don't help her, she's going to die. Dr. Park looked at Zephyra, who had been quietly studying the research station's botanical displays. Is this true? You have no clan affiliation? Zephyra straightened, her voice formal and resigned. I am Zephyra, formerly of the Crimson Claw clan. I was cast out for my failure to manifest flame abilities. I claim no protection and expect no aid. But, you want to live, Dr. Park observed. Yes. I want to live. Dr. Park was quiet for a long moment. Then, he sighed. I suppose we can classify this as emergency medical treatment for a sentient being in distress. It wouldn't be the first time we've bent regulations for humanitarian reasons. The next few days were tense as Dr. Park and his team prepared for the delicate procedure. Using the station's advanced imaging systems, they were able to locate the crystal fragment precisely, a tiny shard of razor glass that had somehow avoided detection for years. It's positioned right against the main flame duct, Dr. Park explained, showing Maya and Zephyra the scan results. Removing it will require incredibly precise work. One slip and we could damage the surrounding tissue permanently. What are the chances of success? Zephyra asked quietly. Dr. Park hesitated. Honestly? About 60%. But, without the surgery, your chances of ever breathing fire are zero. Zephyra looked at Maya, her golden eyes searching. You think I should do it? Maya took the dragon's clawed hand in hers. I think you should decide for yourself. But, I also think you're braver and stronger than you know. The surgery took 6 hours. Maya waited in the station's observation lounge, pacing and worrying despite Dr. Park's assurances that everything was proceeding normally. When the medical team finally emerged, Dr. Park was smiling. We got it, he announced, holding up a tiny vial containing a fragment of crystal no bigger than a grain of rice. And, the surrounding tissue looks healthy. If everything heals properly, there's no reason why her flame organs won't function normally. But, recovery would take time. Dragon physiology was different from human, and their flame-producing organs needed weeks to fully heal after trauma. Zephyra would have to wait to know if the surgery had truly worked. During her recovery, Zephyra proved invaluable to the research station's work. Her knowledge of stellar cartography helped the team refine their understanding of the system's formation, and her technical expertise solved several equipment problems that had been plaguing the station for months. She's remarkable, Dr. Park told Maya privately. Her clan's loss is definitely our gain. Have you thought about what happens next? Her people may have exiled her, but she's still technically a citizen of the Dragon clans. We can't just keep her here indefinitely. Maya had been thinking about exactly that problem. Colonial Command had been surprisingly understanding about her deviation from mission parameters, especially after her report highlighted Zephyra's contributions to the survey. But the question of the dragon's legal status remained complicated. There might be a solution, Maya said slowly. I've been reading up on colonial immigration law. If Zephyra requests asylum based on persecution by her home government, and if she can demonstrate valuable skills, she might qualify for permanent residency status. You'd sponsor her application? Maya nodded. Someone should. And, I think. She paused, watching Zephyra through the observation window as she worked with the research team. I think we make a good team. 3 weeks after the surgery, Zephyra was cleared for light activity. Her throat had healed beautifully, and Dr. Park was cautiously optimistic about the procedure's success. But the real test would come when Zephyra attempted to produce flame for the first time. Maya found her on the station's observation deck, staring out at the alien landscape of Kepler 442c. The tidally locked planet showed a stark division between eternal day and eternal night, with a narrow band of perpetual twilight where the station was located. Nervous? Maya asked, settling beside her friend. Terrified, Zephyra admitted. What if it doesn't work? What if I'm still broken? Then, you're still brilliant, still valuable, and still my friend, Maya replied firmly. Fire or no fire, you're not broken. You never were. Zephyra took a deep breath, then opened her mouth. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a soft whoosh, a small but steady flame emerged, not the massive gout of fire that mature dragons could produce, but definitely real dragon fire. Zephyra's eyes went wide with wonder and joy. She tried again, this time producing a slightly larger flame that danced with colors ranging from deep blue to bright orange. After years of believing herself fundamentally defective, she was finally whole. Maya, she whispered, tears streaming down her scaled cheeks. I can breathe fire. I'm not broken anymore. Maya hugged her friend tightly. You were never broken. You just needed someone who cared enough to look closer. As news of Zephyra's successful surgery spread through the small research community, it became clear that her story had touched more people than Maya had expected. Dr. Park and his team had documented the procedure thoroughly, and their work was already being shared with xenobiological researchers throughout human space. But, more importantly, Colonial Command had approved Zephyra's asylum application. She would be granted full citizenship rights in the Terran Colonial Union, with the option to remain with the research station or transfer to other postings as her career developed. I owe you my life, Zephyra told Maya on their last evening together before Maya had to return to her regular duties. You don't owe me anything, Maya replied. But, I hope you'll stay in touch. The Colonial Engineering Corps can always use someone with your skills. Zephyra smiled, an expression that had become more frequent and natural over the past weeks. Actually, I've been thinking about that. Dr. Park offered me a permanent position here, but... She paused, looking suddenly uncertain. But? Would the Engineering Corps consider taking on a former exile? Someone who wants to learn human engineering techniques? Maya's face lit up with understanding and joy. Zephyra, are you asking if you can work with me? If you would have me as a partner. I know I have much to learn about human technology, but I think our species could accomplish great things together. Maya clasped her friend's clawed hand firmly. Zephyra of the Crimson Claw clan, formerly exiled dragon, current citizen of the Terran Colonial Union, I can think of nothing I'd like more than having you as my engineering partner. As they watched Kepler 442's twin moons rise over the research station, Maya reflected on how profoundly her life had changed. A routine survey mission had led to the most important friendship she'd ever formed. But, more than that, it had reinforced her belief in the fundamental value of every thinking being, regardless of species or perceived limitations. Zephyra tested her flame again, sending a stream of multicolored fire toward the alien stars. She was no longer the broken, hopeless creature Maya had found in the abandoned mining facility. She was a brilliant engineer with unlimited potential and, for the first time in her life, a true friend who valued her for who she was rather than what she could produce. The stars looked different now, Zephyra mused. Before, they seemed cold and distant. Now they look like destinations, places where we might build something wonderful together. Maya smiled, watching the flames dance in her friend's eyes. That's the difference between having a home and just having a place to exist. Welcome home, Zephyra. In the distance, the research station's communications array picked up the regular traffic of a busy star system, cargo haulers, passenger liners, and survey ships like Maya's, all going about the business of expanding human civilization into the galaxy. But, among all those routine transmissions was something new, the first official communication from a Dragon citizen of the Terran Colonial Union, requesting transfer to the Engineering Corps. The message would take days to reach Colonial Command, but Maya had no doubt about the response. Humans had always been good at recognizing talent, regardless of its source. And Zephyra's skills, combined with her unique perspective, would make her an invaluable addition to any team. As the evening wore on, other members of the research team joined them on the observation deck. Dr. Park brought coffee for the humans and a specially formulated nutrient drink for Zephyra. The conversation ranged from technical discussions about dragon physiology to philosophical debates about the nature of home and belonging. You know, Dr. Park said thoughtfully, your story is going to inspire a lot of people. There are probably other defective dragons out there, cast out for conditions that could be easily treated with proper medical care. Zephyra nodded seriously. I have been thinking about that as well. Perhaps, when I am more established in my new life, I could help establish a program to assist other exiles. A dragon underground railroad, Maya said with a grin. I like it. Count me in if you ever get that program off the ground. The conversation continued late into the night, filled with plans and possibilities that had seemed impossible just weeks before. As the group finally dispersed to their quarters, Maya felt a profound sense of satisfaction. Her simple act of compassion had not only saved a life but had potentially opened doors for an entirely new kind of cooperation between species. Zephyra paused at the entrance to her temporary quarters. Maya, I have been meaning to ask you something. In dragon culture, we have a concept called flame bonding, a formal recognition between individuals who have shared fire and trust. It is not quite friendship as humans understand it, but something deeper. A pledge of mutual support and loyalty that transcends clan boundaries. Maya felt honored by the offer. What would that involve? We would share flame together, and I would give you a name in the dragon tongue that reflects your true nature. If you were willing. Without hesitation, Maya nodded. I would be honored. Zephyra's expression grew solemn as she produced a small, carefully controlled flame. Maya extended her hands toward it, feeling the warmth and seeing the complex colors that danced within the fire. There was something profoundly meaningful about the moment, a bridge between species, a bond that transcended their different origins. I name you Flamekeeper, Zephyra said formally. The one who tends the fires of hope in dark places. Maya felt tears prick at her eyes. And I accept that name with honor and gratitude. They stood together in comfortable silence, the flame dancing between them like a promise of all the adventures and discoveries that lay ahead. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and opportunities, but tonight, they were simply two friends who had found each other across the vast darkness of space. 6 months later, Maya stood before the imposing entrance of the Colonial Engineering Academy on Titan Station. The massive structure orbited Saturn, its gleaming corridors filled with the best and brightest minds from across human space. Today marked a new chapter in her career, and, more importantly, in her partnership with Zephyra. The dragon had spent the intervening months completing intensive studies in human engineering practices, mathematics, and physics. Her natural intelligence and unique perspective had impressed every instructor, but the real test would come when she began working alongside human crews on active projects. Are you ready for this? Maya asked as they walked through the academy's main corridor. Zephyra drew curious stares from students and faculty alike. She was the first dragon to formally join a human engineering program. I have been ready since the day you found me, Zephyra replied, her confidence evident in every step. The months of proper nutrition and medical care had transformed her completely. Her scales now gleamed with healthy luster, shifting between deep purple and brilliant blue depending on her mood. Her wings had healed perfectly, and, while she kept them folded respectfully in the crowded corridors, their span was impressive. Director Sarah Williams met them at the Academy's central hub. A stern woman in her 60s with silver hair and sharp eyes, she had run the engineering program for over 20 years. Maya had expected some resistance to Zephyra's inclusion, but Williams had been surprisingly supportive from the beginning. Engineer Chen, welcome back, Williams said, shaking Maya's hand firmly. Then, she turned to Zephyra with obvious interest. And, you must be our dragon prodigy. Your entrance examinations were remarkable. A 98% score in theoretical physics and perfect marks in stellar cartography. Zephyra inclined her head respectfully. Thank you, Director Williams. I am eager to contribute to the program. I'm sure you are. But, first, let's address the elephant in the room. Williams gestured toward a nearby conference room. We need to discuss the practical challenges of integrating a dragon into teams that were designed for humans. The conversation that followed was frank and necessary. Dragons were larger than humans, with different environmental needs and communication styles. Their superior strength and flight capabilities could be advantages in some situations but might create safety concerns in others. Most importantly, their radically different cultural background might lead to misunderstandings with human teammates. I have given this considerable thought, Zephyra said when Williams finished outlining the potential issues. In dragon culture, we have a concept called clutch bonding, the integration of individuals from different family lines into effective working units. The principles are not so different from human team dynamics. Williams nodded approvingly. Your psychological profiles suggest excellent adaptability. But, theory and practice are different things. Are you prepared for the possibility that some humans might not accept you initially? I have already experienced rejection and exile, Zephyra replied simply. If I survive that, I can handle a few skeptical engineers. Maya watched her friend with admiration. The timid, broken creature she had found on Kepler 442b was gone, replaced by a confident professional who understood her own worth. It was a transformation that filled Maya with pride and hope for what they could accomplish together. Their first assignment came 3 days later. A massive orbital construction project around Wolf 359 had run into serious problems with their structural analysis software. The unique gravitational stresses of the binary star system were causing unexpected resonance patterns in the station's framework, and conventional modeling programs couldn't predict where failures might occur. The team assigned to solve the problem consisted of Maya, Zephyra, and 3 other engineers: Lieutenant Commander James Rodriguez, a former military engineer with expertise in large-scale construction, Dr. Lisa Kim, a theoretical physicist specializing in gravitational dynamics, and Marcus Jean, a computer systems specialist. The group met in Conference Room 7, a cramped space barely large enough for 4 humans, let alone a dragon. Zephyra had to fold her wings tightly and curve her neck to fit, an arrangement that clearly made everyone uncomfortable. This isn't going to work, Rodriguez said bluntly after reviewing the team assignments. No offense to our dragon colleague, but the facilities aren't designed for mixed-species crews. None taken, Zephyra replied calmly. Perhaps we could relocate to a larger space? The main engineering lab has adequate room. Dr. Kim looked skeptical. That lab is reserved for senior faculty research. I doubt they'll let a student team use it. Actually, Maya interjected, Director Williams specifically authorized us to use any facilities we need. The Wolf 359 project is considered Priority 1 by Colonial Command. The move to the larger lab improved the group dynamics considerably, but underlying tensions remained. Rodriguez kept glancing at Zephyra with barely concealed suspicion, while Zhang seemed fascinated but afraid to ask direct questions about dragon capabilities. Dr. Kim was the first to break the ice professionally. Your background in stellar cartography might be relevant here. Have you worked with binary star systems before? Extensively, Zephyra replied, moving to the lab's holographic display system. Dragon clanships often mine asteroid belts in binary systems because the gravitational interactions create rich mineral concentrations. She activated the display, showing a detailed model of the Wolf 359 system. The key is understanding the harmonic frequencies created by the overlapping gravity wells. Rodriguez frowned at the display. Our structural engineers already accounted for gravitational stresses. The framework is designed to handle them. Static stresses, yes, Zephyra agreed. But binary systems create dynamic patterns that change over time. What looks stable today might fail catastrophically next month when the stars reach a different phase in their orbital relationship. She manipulated the display, showing how the gravitational forces would shift over a complete orbital period. The patterns were complex and beautiful, but Maya could see immediately why conventional software would struggle to model them accurately. This is why your resonance problems are intermittent, Zephyra continued. The structure is experiencing different stress patterns depending on the star's positions. Your failures occur when the gravitational harmonics match the station's natural frequency. Zhang leaned forward, his earlier hesitation forgotten. Can you predict when those matches will occur? Not just predict, Zephyra said with a slight smile. I can map them precisely. Dragon navigation systems are specifically designed to track complex gravitational interactions in real time. The breakthrough came when Zephyra demonstrated her people's approach to multi-body gravitational calculations. Instead of using traditional mathematical models, dragons employed a form of intuitive mathematics that treated gravity fields as three-dimensional musical compositions. Each massive object contributed its own note to the overall harmony, and experienced navigators could hear when patterns were shifting toward dangerous resonances. It's like tuning an orchestra, Maya said, suddenly understanding the concept. Each gravitational source is an instrument, and you're listening for when they all start playing in a frequency that could damage the structure. Exactly, Zephyra confirmed. And, just as a conductor can adjust the tempo to prevent cacophony, we can modify the station's position or rotation to avoid dangerous resonance patterns. Dr. Kim was furiously taking notes. This approach could revolutionize how we design structures in complex gravitational environments. The mathematical framework is completely different from our current methods. Rodriguez remained skeptical. It sounds very theoretical. How do we know it will work in practice? Because Dragon clanships have been using these techniques for centuries, Zephyra replied patiently. We have built mobile cities that operate safely in some of the most gravitationally complex regions of the galaxy. The proof came when they ran Zephyra's harmonic analysis against the Wolf 359 station's failure logs. Every structural breakdown had occurred precisely when her calculations predicted dangerous resonance conditions. The correlation was perfect, something that conventional modeling had completely missed. Remarkable, Dr. Kim breathed, studying the results. Your approach identified failure patterns we couldn't even see with our instruments. But identifying the problem was only half the battle. They still needed to develop practical solutions that could be implemented by human engineering teams. This required translating Dragon intuitive mathematics into formats that human computers could process and human engineers could understand. The work consumed the team for weeks. Maya found herself serving as a bridge between Zephyra's unique insights and the more conventional approaches favored by the other team members. It was challenging but incredibly rewarding, as she watched her friends slowly learn to appreciate each other's strengths. Rodriguez was the last holdout, his military background making him suspicious of approaches that couldn't be quantified and verified through traditional methods. The breakthrough came when Zephyra demonstrated her navigational abilities during a practice flight around Titan Station. Watch the gravitational sensors, she told Rodriguez as she piloted the team's transport through Saturn's complex moon system. I'll show you what I mean about harmonic patterns. As they flew, Zephyra provided a running commentary on the gravitational forces affecting their craft. She predicted tiny course corrections before the navigation computer registered the need for them, identified resonance patterns that would have caused uncomfortable vibrations, and found flight paths that were both faster and more fuel efficient than the computer's optimal routes. How are you doing that? Rodriguez asked, studying the sensor readouts with amazement. You're making corrections before our instruments even detect the problems. I feel the patterns, Zephyra explains simply. Gravitational fields have texture, rhythm, melody. When you learn to sense those qualities, navigation becomes intuitive rather than calculated. Rodriguez was quiet for a long moment. Then, he said, I owe you an apology. I thought your methods were just dressed-up guesswork. But, this. He gestured at the sensor displays, this is incredible. From that point forward, the team worked together seamlessly. They developed a hybrid approach that combined Dragon harmonic analysis with human engineering precision, creating solutions that neither species could have achieved alone. Their final presentation to the Wolf 359 Project Committee was a triumph. The team demonstrated not only how to solve the immediate structural problems but also how to prevent similar issues in future binary star construction projects. Their work would save lives and resources across multiple star systems. Director Williams was present for the presentation, along with several senior officials from Colonial Command. The response was overwhelmingly positive, with particular praise for the innovative integration of Dragon and human techniques. This represents exactly the kind of cross-species collaboration we hope to foster, said Admiral Patricia Chang, Colonial Command's Chief of Engineering Operations. The results speak for themselves. After the formal presentations ended, Williams approached Maya and Zephyra privately. I have an offer for both of you. Colonial Command is establishing a new division dedicated to advanced engineering challenges, problems that require innovative solutions beyond conventional approaches. They want you to head the program. Maya felt her heart race with excitement. Both of us? Both of you, Williams confirmed. The position comes with significant autonomy, substantial resources, and the mandate to recruit the best minds from any species. You'd be pioneers in interspecies engineering cooperation. Zephyra looked stunned. They would trust an exile with such responsibility? They would trust a brilliant engineer who has already proven her worth, Williams replied firmly. Your citizenship status is irrelevant. Your abilities are what matter. That evening, Maya and Zephyra celebrated at Titan Station's observation lounge, watching Saturn's rings sparkle in the distant sunlight. The events of the past months felt almost dreamlike, from finding a dying dragon in an abandoned mine to being offered leadership of a revolutionary new program. Are you ready to be a department head? Maya asked her friend. Zephyra tested her flame thoughtfully, sending small spirals of fire dancing between her claws. The ability still filled her with wonder, a reminder of how far she had come from the broken exile Maya had discovered. I am ready to try, she said finally. But, I hope you understand that I could not do this without you. You saved my life, but, more than that, you showed me that worth comes from within, not from the approval of others. Maya smiled, watching the colorful flames dance in the starlight. We saved each other. And, now we're going to save a lot of other people by building impossible things together. Their conversation was interrupted by Marcus Zhang, who approached their table with obvious excitement. Sorry to interrupt, but I had to tell you, I just got word from the Wolf 359 station. They implemented your harmonic stabilization protocols 3 hours ago, and the resonance problems have completely disappeared. The station commander says it's the smoothest the structure has felt since construction began. The news was deeply satisfying, but Maya felt an even greater sense of accomplishment when she saw how the success affected her teammates. Dr. Kim was already planning research papers about dragon mathematics, Rodriguez was talking about applying harmonic analysis to military engineering problems, and Zhang had begun developing software interfaces to make dragon techniques more accessible to human engineers. You've started something bigger than just solving a technical problem, Maya told Zephyra later as they walked through the station's residential section. You're changing how humans think about engineering itself. We are changing it together, Zephyra corrected gently. Dragon techniques alone would not work in human systems, just as human precision cannot capture the harmonic patterns dragons sense naturally. The combination is what makes it powerful. They paused at the entrance to Zephyra's quarters, specially modified to accommodate her size and environmental needs. The dragon had insisted on paying for the modifications herself, using credits earned from consulting work she had done for other engineering teams. It was a matter of pride, she explained, to contribute rather than simply receive charity. Tomorrow we start planning the new department, Maya said. Any thoughts on what we should call it? Zephyra considered the question seriously. In dragon culture, we have a term for projects that require multiple clans working together, flame weaving. Perhaps something similar? Interspecies engineering integration? Too formal, Maya replied. How about advanced collaborative engineering? ACE for short. ACE, Zephyra repeated, testing the sound. I like it. It suggests excellence while remaining humble enough to invite participation from others. As they said goodnight, Maya reflected on the extraordinary journey that had brought them to this moment. A simple rescue mission had evolved into a partnership that was already changing the fundamental nature of engineering in human space. But, more than professional success, she had gained a friend whose loyalty and brilliance continued to amaze her. The next morning brought their first official meeting as department heads. Colonial Command had assigned them a modest office suite in the Academy's research wing, along with authorization to recruit a small initial staff. The budget was limited but sufficient to begin tackling the kind of complex problems that conventional engineering approaches couldn't solve. Their first challenge came from an unexpected source. Dr. Yuki Tanaka from the Academy's Xenobiology department approached them with a problem that had been stumped researchers for months. The Proxima Centauri colony had discovered an abandoned alien city deep beneath the planet's surface, a structure so advanced that human scientists couldn't even identify its building materials, let alone understand its construction principles. The structure appears to be grown rather than built, Dr. Tanaka explained, showing them holographic images of the discovery. The walls are some kind of crystalline matrix that's stronger than our best composites but shows no signs of fabrication or assembly. It's as if the entire complex emerged from the ground fully formed. Maya studied the images with fascination. The alien architecture was unlike anything in her experience, flowing, organic curves that somehow conveyed mathematical precision and engineering perfection. What do you need from us? We need to understand how it was made. If we could replicate even a fraction of these techniques, it would revolutionize construction throughout human space. But every analysis we've attempted has failed. Zephyra had been quietly examining the data, her golden eyes tracking patterns that human vision might miss. These crystalline structures remind me of something, she said slowly. Dragon architects sometimes grow buildings using flame fusion techniques. Perhaps these aliens used similar principles, but with different energy sources. Dr. Tanaka looked intrigued. Flame fusion? I'm not familiar with that term. It's an advanced dragon technique, Zephyra explained. Skilled artisans can use precisely controlled flame to fuse crystalline materials at the molecular level, encouraging them to grow into predetermined shapes. The result is structures that are incredibly strong because they lack the weak points created by joints or connections. Maya felt the familiar excitement that came with a new engineering challenge. Could you identify signs of flame fusion in these alien structures? Possibly. But I would need to examine them personally. Remote analysis cannot capture the subtle harmonic patterns that flame fusion creates in crystalline matrices. Dr. Tanaka's expression grew concerned. That would mean traveling to Proxima Centauri. It's a 6-month journey each way, and the colonial government has been very protective of the alien site. Getting permission for a research expedition would be extremely difficult. Leave that to us, Maya said confidently. ACE's mandate includes authority to investigate advanced engineering phenomena wherever they occur. I think we can make a compelling case for the mission. Getting approval for the Proxima Centauri expedition took 3 weeks of bureaucratic negotiations, but Maya's reputation and ACE's new status eventually overcame official reluctance. The breakthrough came when Admiral Chang personally endorsed the mission, citing the strategic importance of understanding advanced alien construction techniques. The journey to Proxima Centauri aboard the research vessel Prometheus gave Maya and Zephyra time to plan their investigation thoroughly. They were joined by Dr. Tanaka and a small team of specialists, including a xenoarchaeologist, a materials engineer, and a geophysicist. Zephyra spent much of the journey teaching the team about dragon construction techniques, sharing knowledge that had never been formally documented for human researchers. Her explanations of flame fusion crystallography required entirely new mathematical frameworks, keeping Dr. Kim busy developing computer models that could simulate the processes. The key insight, Zephyra explained during one of their planning sessions, is that crystalline growth can be guided by harmonic resonance patterns. Just as we use gravitational harmonics for navigation, dragon architects use acoustic harmonics to encourage crystals to grow in specific directions and densities. The xenoarchaeologist, Dr. Samuel Foster, was particularly fascinated. This could explain why the alien structures show no signs of decay despite their obvious age. If the entire complex is essentially a single crystal formation, it would be incredibly stable. When they finally reached Proxima Centauri, the reality of the alien site exceeded even Maya's expectations. The underground complex stretched for kilometers in all directions, its crystalline walls glowing with their own internal light. The architecture followed principles that human minds could barely comprehend: spaces that seemed to exist in more than 3 dimensions, corridors that led places they shouldn't geometrically reach. Zephyra's reaction was immediate and intense. This was definitely created using controlled energy fusion, she announced after just a few minutes of examination. But not flame fusion as dragons practice it. This is something far more sophisticated. She moved through the alien spaces with obvious excitement, her claws gently touching walls and pillars that hummed with barely detectable vibrations. The entire complex is alive with harmonic patterns. Every surface is tuned to specific frequencies, creating a 3-dimensional musical composition in crystal. Dr. Foster was recording everything with his instruments, but Maya could see that conventional analysis was missing the deeper patterns that Zephyra sensed intuitively. What do you think the purpose was? Why build something like this? I believe it was a learning environment, Zephyra replied thoughtfully. Each chamber creates different harmonic conditions that would affect the consciousness of beings inside them. It's like a university, but one that teaches through direct manipulation of perception and thought. The implications were staggering. An alien species had created structures that could literally reshape consciousness through architectural harmony. The technology involved was so advanced that it bordered on what humans might consider magic. But Zephyra's dragon heritage gave her insights that pure human science couldn't match. Over the course of 2 weeks, she mapped the complex's harmonic structures, identifying how different chambers and corridors work together to create specific mental and emotional states. If we could understand the principles completely, she told Maya during one of their evening discussions in their temporary base camp, we could design environments that enhance human learning, creativity, even healing. Architecture could become a form of medicine. The research team worked feverishly to document everything before their scheduled departure. Dr. Tanaka focused on the biological implications of harmonic architecture, while Dr. Foster cataloged the archaeological significance of the find. Maya and Zephyra concentrated on understanding the engineering principles that made such construction possible. Their breakthrough came in the complex's central chamber, a vast space where all the harmonic patterns converged in perfect mathematical harmony. Zephyra spent hours there, sometimes sitting motionless for periods while she absorbed the acoustic patterns around her. I think I understand now, she said finally. The aliens didn't just grow these structures, they composed them. Each building is a physical manifestation of mathematical relationships that create specific harmonic effects. Maya looked around the impossible chamber, trying to see it through her friend's perception. Could humans learn to build something like this? Not exactly like this, Zephyra admitted. We lack the natural harmonic sensitivity that the builders possessed. But we could create simplified versions using the same principles. Imagine hospitals that help patients heal faster through architectural harmony, or schools where the buildings themselves enhance learning. The return journey to human space was filled with intense analysis and planning. The team had gathered enough information to revolutionize multiple fields of science and engineering, but translating alien architectural principles into human applications would require years of careful research. Maya watched Zephyra working with the complex mathematical models they had developed, her friend's unique abilities allowing her to see patterns that remained invisible to conventional analysis. The exile that Maya had found dying in an abandoned mine had become one of the most important scientific minds in human space. Do you ever regret leaving Dragon Society? Maya asked during one of their quiet moments aboard the Prometheus. Zephyra looked up from her calculations, her golden eyes reflecting the starlight streaming through the ship's observation ports. How can I regret the path that led me to this moment? To this friendship, to these discoveries? I would not trade my exile for all the clan honors in Dragon Space. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from Colonial Command. Admiral Chang's face appeared on the ship's main screen, her expression grave but excited. Dr. Chen, Zephyra, I hope you're sitting down. We've received a priority communication from the Dragon Clans, specifically, from the Grand Council itself. Maya felt her blood run cold. The Grand Council was the highest authority in Dragon Society, a body that hadn't communicated with human governments since the initial First Contact protocols decades earlier. What do they want? Maya asked carefully. Admiral Chang's expression was unreadable. They want to talk to Zephyra. It seems news of her work with ACE has reached Dragon Space, and they're requesting formal diplomatic contact to discuss matters of mutual scientific interest. Zephyra sat frozen, her scales shifting through rapid color changes that indicated intense emotional turmoil. They exiled me, she whispered. Cast me out as worthless and broken. Why would they want to speak with me now? Because you're not worthless or broken, Maya said firmly. You never were. And now the entire galaxy is beginning to understand what I saw in you from the beginning. The message from the Grand Council was formal and carefully worded, but its implications were enormous. Dragon Society, which had remained largely isolated since First Contact, was finally ready to engage in serious cooperation with other species. And they wanted Zephyra to be their representative. It's your choice, Maya told her friend as they considered the implications. But, whatever you decide, know that you'll always have a home with ACE, with me, with all the humans who've come to respect and care about you. Zephyra was quiet for a long time, her gaze fixed on the stars beyond the ship's hull. When she finally spoke, her voice was steady and sure. I think it's time for dragons to learn what I learned, that worth comes from contribution, not from conformity. And perhaps it's time for both our species to discover what we can accomplish when we truly work together. 3 months after returning from Proxima Centauri, Maya stood in the newly constructed diplomatic chamber aboard Titan Station. The space had been specially designed to accommodate both human and dragon physiology, high ceilings, reinforced floors, and environmental systems that could handle flame production without triggering safety alerts. Today marked the first formal meeting between human and dragon representatives in over 30 years. Maya couldn't help but feel nervous, not just about the diplomatic implications, but about how this encounter might affect Zephyra personally. Her friend had spent weeks preparing for this moment, studying dragon diplomatic protocols she had never expected to use again. The Dragon Clan delegation will arrive within the hour, Admiral Chang announced, reviewing her tablet with obvious tension. 5 ships, including the Grand Council's personal vessel Crimson Dawn. This is unprecedented, they haven't sent representatives of this rank to any interspecies meeting in recorded history. Zephyra stood near the chamber's ceremonial fire pit, her scales gleaming in their formal deep purple coloration. She had spent the morning in meditation, preparing herself for what would essentially be a trial by fire. The dragons coming to meet them included representatives from the same clan that had exiled her, beings who had declared her worthless and cast her out to die. Remember, Maya said quietly, approaching her friend, you're not the same dragon they exiled. You've achieved things they never thought possible. You're here as an equal, not as a supplicant. I know this intellectually, Zephyra replied, her voice carefully controlled. But, facing those who condemned you requires more than knowledge. It requires courage I am not certain I possess. You have more courage than anyone I know, Maya said firmly. You survived exile, overcame a medical condition your people thought was permanent, and helped revolutionize engineering practices across human space. If that's not courageous, I don't know what is. The arrival of the Dragon delegation was announced by a deep thrumming that resonated through Titan Station's hull. Through the chamber's transparent aluminum windows, Maya could see the massive clanships dropping out of hyperspace, vessels that looked more grown than built, their organic curves gleaming with the same crystalline techniques Zephyra had identified in the alien ruins. The lead ship, Crimson Dawn, was particularly impressive. Nearly a kilometer long and shaped like a vast dragon with wings spread wide, it pulsed with internal light that shifted through the entire spectrum. Maya had seen images of dragon vessels before, but experiencing one in person was overwhelming. By the void, whispered Dr. Tanaka, who had been invited to observe the proceedings. No wonder they maintained technological independence. These ships are works of art as much as engineering. The delegation itself was equally impressive. 5 dragons in full ceremonial regalia, their scales polished to mirror brightness and their personal flames burning steady and bright. Maya recognized the formal markings that indicated rank and clan affiliation. These were not mere representatives but true power brokers within dragon society. Leading them was Elder Pyraxis of the Golden Talon clan, a dragon whose reputation for wisdom and diplomatic skill was legendary even among humans. Her scales were deep gold with crimson highlights, and her size suggested considerable age and status. Behind her came representatives from 4 other major clans, including one that made Maya's heart race with concern. Elder Vorthak of the Crimson Claw clan, Zephyra's birth clan, the very beings who had exiled her. Vorthak was a massive dragon, his scales the deep red of cooling lava, with ceremonial scars that marked him as a veteran of the ancient clan wars. His golden eyes fixed on Zephyra the moment he entered the chamber, and Maya could see her friend struggle not to show the fear and pain that recognition brought. Zephyra, formerly of the Crimson Claw clan, Elder Pyraxis said formally, her voice carrying the resonant harmonics that marked high-status dragon speech. You stand before us as something unprecedented, an exile who has achieved recognition among the Starwalkers. Zephyra stepped forward, her head held high despite the emotional turmoil Maya knew she was experiencing. Honored elders, I greet you as Zephyra of Titan Station, citizen of the Terran Colonial Union and co-director of Advanced Collaborative Engineering. The formal introduction was perfect, identifying Zephyra by her new status rather than her birth clan. It was a diplomatic statement that she no longer sought acceptance from those who had rejected her, but stood as an independent entity deserving of respect. Elder Vorthak's expression was unreadable. You claim titles among aliens, exile. Tell us why the Grand Council should recognize such presumption. Maya felt anger flare at the casual dismissal, but Zephyr's response was calm and measured. I claim nothing, Elder Vorthak. I have earned recognition through contribution and achievement. The same principles that govern clan status, applied in a broader context. Achievements among inferior species count for little, another elder interjected, Korvash of the Steel Wing clan, known for his traditionalist views. Respectfully, Elder Korvash, Admiral Chang interrupted, we prefer to think of them as achievements that benefit multiple species. The techniques your former clan member has developed have already saved lives and advanced scientific knowledge throughout this sector. Pyraxis raised a clawed hand for silence. Peace, honored representatives. We come not to debate the worth of interspecies cooperation, but to understand it. She turned to Zephyra with obvious interest. Show us these achievements, exile who became citizen. Demonstrate what you have learned in your time among the Starwalkers. What followed was the most important presentation of Zephyra's life. Using the chamber's holographic systems, she displayed the work ACE had accomplished over the past year. The Wolf 359 station stabilization, the Proxima Centauri alien architecture analysis, and, most impressively, the hybrid human-dragon engineering techniques they had developed. As Zephyra explained the mathematical principles behind harmonic gravitational analysis, Maya watched the dragon elders with fascination. Their expressions shifted from skeptical dismissal to surprised interest to what looked very much like awe. Impossible, breathed Elder Korvash when Zephyra demonstrated how human computer systems could be programmed to recognize and predict harmonic gravitational patterns. No flesh-born species could understand the song of the void well enough to encode it in artificial minds. The Starwalkers approach understanding differently than we do, Zephyra replied diplomatically. They cannot sense the song directly, but they can measure and analyze it with instruments of remarkable precision. When dragon intuition combines with human methodology, both become more powerful. Elder Vorthak had remained silent through most of the presentation, but now he spoke with obvious reluctance. The techniques you demonstrate are impressive. But they represent corruption of pure dragon knowledge through contamination with alien concepts. Maya couldn't stay silent any longer. With respect, Elder Vorthak, pure dragon knowledge led to Zephyra being exiled as worthless. Contaminated knowledge made her one of the most valuable engineers in known space. The chamber fell silent at Maya's bold statement. Dragon diplomatic protocols didn't usually include direct challenges from humans, but Maya had reached her limit for listening to Zephyra being insulted by the very beings who had nearly destroyed her. Surprisingly, it was Elder Pyraxis who broke the silence with what sounded very much like laughter. Your flame-bonded speaks truly, Zephyra of Titan Station. Perhaps we have become too concerned with purity and not concerned enough with effectiveness. Flame-bonded? Elder Vorthak's voice carried sharp interest. You have undergone the ritual with a fleshborn? Zephyra's chin rose proudly. I have. Maya Chen, called Flamekeeper, who found me dying and gave me hope for life. Our bond transcends species, as does our partnership. The revelation clearly shook the dragon delegation. Flame bonding was one of their most sacred rituals, rarely performed even between dragons and never before recorded between species. For Zephyra to claim such a bond with a human was either profound blasphemy or revolutionary evolution. This changes much, Elder Pyraxis said thoughtfully. If flame bonds can exist between species, then, perhaps our definitions of kinship and alliance require reconsideration. The formal sessions continued for 3 days, but the real breakthrough came during an informal meal on the second evening. The dragons had been invited to the station's observation lounge, where they could speak more freely away from official protocols. Maya found herself in conversation with Elder Pyraxis while Zephyra spoke quietly with representatives from other clans. The ancient dragon's perspective on recent events was illuminating. We have watched your species with interest for decades, Pyraxis admitted, her voice carrying none of the formal resonance she used in official sessions. Your rapid expansion, your adaptability, your talent for making allies of former enemies. These are admirable traits. But? Maya prompted, sensing there was more to the statement. But we also saw you as young and reckless, prone to mistakes that wiser species would avoid. The exile of Zephyra reinforced this view. We assumed you would either exploit her knowledge or waste her potential through incomprehension. Maya smiled. Instead, we gave her the tools to exceed her potential and prove your initial judgment wrong. Indeed. And, in doing so, you have forced us to confront uncomfortable truths about our own society. How many other defective dragons have we cast aside who might have achieved great things with proper support? The question hung in the air between them, highlighting the real purpose of the dragon delegation. They hadn't come merely to establish diplomatic relations, they had come to learn from their former exile how to become better than they were. On the third day, Elder Vorthak requested a private meeting with Zephyra. Maya offered to attend as her flame-bonded partner, but Zephyra chose to face her former clan leader alone. The conversation took place in a small conference room, with only basic translation equipment to record the proceedings. You have exceeded all expectations, young flame, Vorthak began, using Zephyra's childhood name for the first time since his arrival. When we cast you out, we believed we were preventing your shame from contaminating the clan. Instead, we denied ourselves the glory of your achievements. Zephyra's voice was carefully neutral. I harbor no resentment, Elder. Exile taught me that worth comes from within, not from external validation. Wisdom beyond your years, Vorthak acknowledged. The clan elders have debated your situation extensively since learning of your accomplishments. We are prepared to offer you full restoration, return to the clan with honors befitting your achievements. The offer was everything the young exile had once dreamed of: complete rehabilitation, acceptance by those who had rejected her, restoration of her place in Dragon Society. Maya held her breath as she waited for Zephyra's response. I am honored by the offer, Elder, Zephyra said finally. But I must decline. Vorthak's surprise was evident. You refuse restoration? Why would you choose to remain among aliens when you could reclaim your birthright? Because my birthright was never clan membership, Zephyra replied with quiet dignity. It was the ability to contribute, to build, to explore the possibilities that exist when different minds work together. I have found that birthright here, among humans who value what I can do rather than what I am supposed to be. The elder was silent for a long moment. Then, he said, you speak of contributing and building. Would you consider contributing to a project that bridges our species? The Grand Council is prepared to establish a permanent embassy here, with facilities for joint research and development. We would want you to oversee the dragon contribution to such efforts. It was a remarkable offer, essentially asking Zephyra to become the architect of human-dragon cooperation. But it also meant she would be working primarily with dragon personnel, representing her birth species to her adopted home. I would need to discuss this with my partner, Zephyra said carefully. Any such position would require her involvement as well. The flame bond is that strong? The partnership is that effective, Zephyra corrected. Maya's insights into human engineering culture are as valuable as my understanding of dragon techniques. Together, we accomplish things neither could achieve alone. When Zephyra shared the offer with Maya that evening, her friend's response was immediate and enthusiastic. It's perfect. You'd be helping your birth species evolve while building bridges between our civilizations. Plus, we could continue developing ACE on a much larger scale. You would not mind working primarily with dragons? They can be challenging for humans to understand. Maya grinned. If I can work with one stubborn, brilliant dragon, I can probably handle a few more. The agreement reached between the human and dragon delegations exceeded everyone's expectations. The dragons would establish a permanent research embassy on Titan Station, with Zephyra serving as the primary liaison and director of joint projects. ACE would be expanded into a truly interspecies organization, with funding and personnel from both civilizations. But, perhaps most importantly, the dragons agreed to review their exile practices and establish programs to help defective clan members find alternative paths to contribution rather than simply being cast out. Zephyra's story would become a teaching example, proof that different didn't mean worthless. On the final day of the negotiations, Elder Pyraxis made a presentation that surprised everyone. The Grand Council has deliberated extensively on the matter of flame bonds between species. We have concluded that such bonds, while unprecedented, represent evolution rather than corruption of our traditions. She turned to Maya and Zephyra with obvious ceremony. Therefore, we formally recognize the flame bond between Zephyra of Titan Station and Maya-Chen, called Flamekeeper. Let it be recorded that kinship transcends species when forged in mutual respect and shared purpose. The recognition was more than symbolic, it granted Maya a form of honorary citizenship in Dragon Society, with all the protections and responsibilities that entailed. She was probably the first human in history to hold such status. As the dragon delegation prepared to depart, Elder Vorthak approached Zephyra one final time. I owe you an apology, young flame. Our judgment was flawed, our understanding limited. You have become everything the clan hoped for and more, despite our failure to see your potential. Zephyra inclined her head respectfully. No apology is needed, Elder. The path that led me here was necessary for me to become who I am today. I bear no anger toward those who shaped that path. Wisdom and grace, Vortak murmured. The Crimson Claw clan has lost much by losing you, but perhaps we have gained something as well, the knowledge that our methods need reform. After the dragons departed, Maya and Zephyra stood together in the diplomatic chamber, watching the clanships disappear into hyperspace. The space around them felt different now, charged with possibility and the promise of transformation. How do you feel? Maya asked her friend. About everything that happened, about the future we're about to build? Zephyra tested her flame one more time, sending complex patterns of fire dancing through the air, a celebration, a release, and a promise all at once. I feel like someone who was lost has finally found their way home, she said. Not to a place, but to a purpose. And I feel grateful to have a flame-bonded partner who helped me discover that the family you choose is stronger than the one you're born into. Maya smiled, watching the fire patterns reflect off the chamber's walls like the possibilities of their shared future. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new projects, new opportunities to prove that cooperation could overcome any obstacle. But tonight, they celebrated the transformation of an exile into an ambassador, of a rescue mission into a revolution, and of two unlikely friends into partners who would help reshape the galaxy itself. The communications system chimed softly, indicating an incoming message. Maya checked the display and grinned. It's from the Wolf 359 station. They want to know if ACE would be interested in helping design the next generation of binary star construction platforms. Our first official joint project, Zephyra said with satisfaction. I believe this is going to be an interesting partnership. Maya laughed, looking forward to the challenges ahead. Partner, with you involved, interesting is definitely guaranteed. As they began reviewing the technical specifications for what would become the most ambitious engineering project in human history, Maya reflected on the journey that had brought them here. It had started with a simple act of compassion, refusing to leave a dying creature alone in the darkness. Now, that creature had become one of the most important figures in interspecies relations, and their partnership was opening doors to possibilities that neither humanity nor dragonkind could have imagined alone. Sometimes, Maya thought, the most important discoveries weren't made in laboratories or through complex calculations. Sometimes they were made by simply refusing to abandon hope, by choosing to see potential where others saw only failure. And, sometimes, the most valuable thing you could give someone wasn't money or resources or even knowledge, it was the simple recognition that they mattered, that their life had worth, and that they were not alone in the darkness. Zephyra had returned that gift 1,000-fold, bringing her unique brilliance to solve problems that had seemed impossible. But, more than that, she had shown Maya and countless others that diversity of thought and approach was not a weakness to be tolerated but a strength to be celebrated. The future they were building together would be one where worth was measured by contribution rather than conformity, where different species could work together as equals, and where no one would be condemned as worthless simply for failing to meet arbitrary standards. It was a future worth fighting for, worth building, and worth sharing with anyone brave enough to reach across the divide of species and culture to grasp the hand or claw of a friend. 2 years after the historic Dragon delegation, the Advanced Collaborative Engineering Division had grown beyond Maya's wildest expectations. What had started as a small experimental program now occupied an entire section of Titan Station, with over 200 personnel from 14 different species working on projects that were revolutionizing construction, transportation, and even medicine throughout known space. Maya walked through the main laboratory complex, marveling at the sight of humans, dragons, centaurians, vegan crystal singers, and half a dozen other species working side by side on problems that no single civilization could have solved alone. The air hummed with controlled energy discharges, harmonic resonances, and the quiet conversation of minds pushing the boundaries of what was possible. At the center of it all was Zephyra, no longer the timid exile Maya had found dying in an abandoned mine but a confident leader whose reputation for brilliance was known across the galaxy. Her scales had taken on deeper, richer hues as her confidence and health had improved, and her flame had grown from the tentative flicker of recovery to a powerful tool she wielded with artistic precision. Status report, Maya called as she approached Zephyra's workstation, where her partner was reviewing holographic models of their latest project with Dr. Sarah Kim and a Centaurian engineer named Clix-4. The Mars terraforming proposal is progressing better than expected, Zephyra replied, her golden eyes bright with excitement. Clix-4's atmospheric manipulation techniques, combined with dragon harmonic resonance and human engineering precision, could reduce the terraforming timeline from centuries to decades. The Mars project was ACE's most ambitious undertaking yet, a complete redesign of humanity's approach to planetary engineering. Traditional terraforming relied on brute force atmospheric processing and climate manipulation, methods that were slow, expensive, and often harmful to existing ecosystems. The ACE approach used harmonic frequencies to encourage desired atmospheric changes, while crystal singing techniques accelerated the growth of atmospheric processors. The preliminary trials on Kepler 438b exceeded all projections, Dr. Kim added, pulling up test data that showed atmospheric composition changes happening at unprecedented rates. If we can scale the process up to Mars-sized planetary systems, we could complete terraforming in 30 years instead of 300. Maya studied the data with professional appreciation, but her attention was caught by something else, a new message indicator flashing on Zephyra's personal communication terminal. The origin codes identified it as coming from deep space, outside established trade routes. Expecting any messages from the frontier sectors? Maya asked casually. Zephyra glanced at the terminal and frowned. No. Most of our correspondence comes through official channels. She activated the message, and her expression shifted from curiosity to shock as she read the contents. What is it? Maya asked, noting the sudden tension in her partner's posture. It's from a group calling itself the Exiled Flame Coalition, Zephyra said quietly. They claim to represent dragons who have been cast out from various clans and are now living in the frontier regions. They want to meet with me. Maya felt a mix of excitement and concern. They had always known that Zephyra's story would inspire other exiled dragons, but contact from organized groups of exiles raised complex questions about ACE's role in dragon society. What do they want specifically? Dr. Kim asked. Zephyra continued reading, her expression growing more troubled with each line. They want me to help them establish their own colony, independent of the traditional clan structure. They believe that dragons who cannot or will not conform to clan expectations should have an alternative path to survival and prosperity. The request was both reasonable and potentially explosive. Dragon society was built around the clan system, with strict hierarchies and expectations that had persisted for millennia. 5 years had passed since the establishment of Haven Settlement, and the galaxy had transformed in ways that even Maya's most optimistic projections hadn't anticipated. The Advanced Collaborative Engineering Initiative now operated research stations in 17 star systems, each one a testament to the power of interspecies cooperation and the value of diversity in solving complex challenges. Maya stood in the observation deck of the new ACE flagship, Harmony's Dawn, watching the construction of the most ambitious project yet attempted, the first truly interstellar city. Built at the gravitational balance point between 3 star systems, New Synthesis was designed to be a permanent home for beings from any species, with environmental zones, cultural spaces, and working areas that could accommodate the needs of dozens of different civilizations. The Quantum Entanglement Communication Array is online, Zephyra reported, approaching with a satisfied expression. Her scales now showed the deep, rich coloration that marked a dragon in the prime of life, and her confidence had grown to match her reputation as one of the galaxy's foremost innovators. The Ethereal Collective has agreed to establish a permanent embassy in New Synthesis. The Ethereal Collective had been their most challenging diplomatic success yet, a species that existed partly in normal space and partly in quantum dimensions, making traditional communication nearly impossible. It had taken 3 years of patient work to develop the hybrid communication systems that allowed meaningful dialogue, but the results had been worth the effort. The Ethereals possessed technologies that could revolutionize energy production and space travel. That makes 47 species committed to permanent residence, Maya said, reviewing the latest population projections on her tablet. And we haven't even officially opened yet. New Synthesis represented the culmination of everything they had learned about fostering cooperation between radically different civilizations. The city was designed around the principle that diversity created strength, with districts that showcased the best of each culture while providing spaces where all could meet as equals. The engineering challenges had been staggering. Creating atmospheric zones for species that breathed everything from oxygen to methane to pure energy, designing transportation systems that could accommodate beings who flew, crawled, phased through matter, or existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously, and establishing communication networks that could translate not just languages but entirely different forms of consciousness. The crystalline harmonists want to discuss modifications to the resonance chambers in District 7, Zephyra continued, pulling up architectural plans that shifted and flowed like living things. They're concerned that the current harmonic frequencies might interfere with their reproduction cycles. Maya nodded, making notes for their next design meeting. The harmonists were silicon-based beings who reproduced through complex acoustic rituals that required precise environmental conditions, accommodating their needs while maintaining the delicate balance that allowed 46 other species to coexist was exactly the kind of challenge that ACE specialized in. Speaking of reproduction cycles, Zephyra said with what Maya had learned to recognize as her friend's attempt at casual conversation about important topics, I received an interesting message from the Haven Settlement Medical Center. Maya looked up from her tablet with curiosity. Oh? Dr. Jensen thinks she may have found a solution to cross-species medical compatibility. Her research team has been working with genetic engineers from 6 different civilizations, and they believe they've developed protocols that would allow safe medical treatment regardless of the patient's biological origin. The implications were enormous. One of the biggest barriers to truly integrated communities was the difficulty of providing medical care for species with radically different physiologies. Dr. Jensen's work could make places like New Synthesis truly viable as permanent homes rather than just temporary working environments. That's incredible news, Maya said. When can we expect preliminary trials? That's the interesting part, Zephyra replied, her scales shifting through colors that Maya had learned indicated nervousness. Dr. Jensen wants to begin with volunteer test subjects for the compatibility protocols. She specifically requested that we consider participating. Maya raised an eyebrow. Us? Why would she want human and dragon volunteers specifically? Because of our flame bond, Zephyra explained. The psychic connection we share has created unique physiological changes in both of us. Dr. Jensen believes studying those changes could provide insights into how consciousness affects biological compatibility. The idea was both fascinating and slightly unsettling. Maya had noticed changes in herself over the years: improved spatial reasoning, enhanced ability to sense harmonic patterns, even a limited capacity to understand dragon emotional communication without translation. She had assumed these were simply learned skills, but apparently they went deeper. What kind of testing are we talking about? Maya asked carefully. Non-invasive scans, genetic analysis, consciousness mapping, Zephyra replied. The kind of comprehensive examination that would normally require weeks in a medical facility. But Dr. Jensen has developed new techniques that can gather the same information in a few hours. Maya considered the proposal thoughtfully. Their partnership had already contributed to engineering breakthroughs, diplomatic innovations, and social reforms that had transformed multiple civilizations. If their unique bond could also advance medical science in ways that would benefit billions of beings, it seemed like a natural extension of their mission. I'm willing if you are, Maya said finally. But I want full disclosure about what they're looking for and what they might find. The medical evaluation took place at Haven Settlement's Advanced Research Facility, a complex that had grown into one of the galaxy's premier centers for interspecies scientific collaboration. Dr. Jensen and her team had assembled equipment from dozens of different civilizations, creating diagnostic capabilities that no single species could have achieved alone. The initial scans are remarkable, Dr. Jensen announced as Maya and Zephyra reviewed their results. The flame bonding process has created measurable changes in both your neural structures and your genetic expression patterns. The holographic displays showed brain activity patterns that were unlike anything in the medical literature. Maya's neural pathways had developed new connections that mirrored dragon cognitive structures, while Zephyra's brain showed enhanced areas associated with human-style analytical thinking. It's as if you've each developed secondary processing systems based on your partner's cognitive patterns, Dr. Jensen continued. But, more than that, there's evidence of active quantum entanglement between your consciousness patterns. Maya felt a chill of excitement and concern. What does that mean, exactly? It means you're literally sharing thoughts at the quantum level, Dr. Jensen explained. Not constantly, and not completely, but there's a persistent connection that allows for direct consciousness-to-consciousness communication under certain conditions. Zephyra looked startled. Is that why I sometimes know what Maya is thinking before she speaks? And why I can sense your emotional state even when you're trying to hide it, Maya added, understanding dawning. Exactly. The flame bonding ritual created more than just a symbolic connection, it established an actual psychic link that has grown stronger over time. Dr. Jensen pulled up more data, showing complex wave patterns that synchronized between Maya and Zephyra's brains. This could be the key to developing universal medical protocols. The research team's theory was that consciousness itself played a crucial role in biological compatibility between species. If they could understand how the psychic connection between Maya and Zephyra affected their physiological responses, they might be able to replicate those effects artificially. Imagine medical systems that could adapt their treatment protocols based on the patient's consciousness patterns rather than just their biological structure, Dr. Jensen said enthusiastically. We could treat any being from any species using the same basic equipment. The implications extended far beyond medicine. If consciousness could be quantified and manipulated, it might be possible to enhance communication between radically different species, accelerate learning and adaptation, even help individuals develop capabilities they had never naturally possessed. This is how I was able to learn human engineering techniques so quickly, Zephyra realized. The flame bond allowed me to access Maya's cognitive patterns and integrate them with my own dragon intuition. And how I developed the ability to sense harmonic patterns the way dragons do, Maya added. We've been unconsciously sharing mental capabilities. The discovery led to an entirely new field of research that would eventually be called consciousness engineering. Just as ACE had revolutionized physical engineering through interspecies cooperation, they were now pioneering techniques for enhancing mental cooperation through direct consciousness interaction. But the immediate applications were even more exciting. Within months, Dr. Jensen's team had developed prototype medical devices that could adapt their treatment protocols based on consciousness pattern analysis. The first successful cross-species surgery took place 6 months later, when a Centaurian patient was successfully treated using equipment designed for human physiology but modified through consciousness-guided adaptation. We're not just building better tools, Maya told Admiral Chang during one of their regular progress reports. We're discovering that the boundaries between species are far more fluid than anyone realized. The success of the consciousness engineering research attracted attention throughout the galaxy, including from some unexpected sources. A message arrived from the deepest regions of explored space, originating from a species that had never made contact with any of the major civilizations. They call themselves the Ancients, Zephyra explained as she and Maya reviewed the cryptic communication. The message is transmitted through quantum consciousness channels. They somehow learned about our research and want to establish contact. The message itself was unlike anything in Maya's experience. Rather than words or images, it conveyed concepts and emotions directly, creating understanding without the need for translation. The ancients spoke of awareness spanning millions of years, of consciousness that existed across multiple dimensions, and of knowledge that could transform the nature of existence itself. They want to meet with us specifically, Maya said, struggling to process the alien concepts flooding her mind. Not with human or dragon representatives, but with us, because of what we become. The implications were staggering. The ancients apparently represented a form of consciousness so advanced that they existed beyond traditional physical limitations. They had been observing the development of younger species for eons, but had never found minds that could comprehend their true nature. Until now. The flame bond has changed us in ways we're only beginning to understand, Zephyr said, her voice filled with wonder and apprehension. We become something new, not human, not dragon, but a hybrid consciousness that can bridge gaps no one else can cross. The decision to meet with the ancients was not made lightly. The encounter would take place in the deep void between star systems, using technologies that existed at the very edge of scientific understanding. Maya and Zephyra would be venturing into literally unknown territory, guided only by their unique consciousness link and their faith in each other. Are we ready for this? Maya asked as they prepared to depart aboard a specially modified vessel equipped with consciousness interface technology. I don't think anyone could be ready for this, Zephyra replied honestly. But that's never stopped us before. The journey to the meeting point took 2 weeks, during which Maya and Zephyra spent most of their time in meditation and mental preparation. The consciousness engineering techniques developed by Dr. Jensen's team had revealed new depths to their psychic connection, allowing them to merge their awareness more completely than ever before. I can feel your thoughts as clearly as my own, Maya whispered during one of their shared meditation sessions. Is this what the ancients experience constantly? Perhaps, Zephyra replied without speaking, her thoughts flowing directly into Maya's consciousness. Or perhaps they experience something even more complete, awareness that encompasses entire civilizations rather than just 2 minds. The ancients' vessel appeared without warning in the designated coordinates, a structure that defied conventional understanding of physics. It seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, its form shifting and flowing like liquid light contained in impossible geometries. The first contact was overwhelming. Ancient consciousness touched their merged awareness with the force of a stellar wind, nearly shattering their psychic connection before they managed to adapt. But, once the initial shock passed, Maya found herself experiencing existence from a perspective that spanned cosmic timescales. The ancients had been watching the younger species develop for millions of years, waiting for consciousness to evolve to the point where meaningful communication became possible. They had seen civilizations rise and fall, species achieve transcendence or destroy themselves, galaxies born and die in the cosmic dance of evolution. But, they had also seen something new emerging: consciousness that could bridge the gaps between radically different forms of awareness, creating hybrid minds that were greater than the sum of their parts. Maya and Zephyra represented the first successful example of this new form of consciousness, the prototype for what all sufficiently advanced species might eventually become. You have shown that different forms of awareness can become one while remaining distinct, the ancient presence communicated, concepts flowing directly into their merged consciousness. This is the path to true transcendence, not the abandonment of individuality, but its enhancement through unity with others. The knowledge the ancients shared was transformative. They revealed techniques for consciousness manipulation that made current research look primitive, showed how awareness could be expanded to encompass entire star systems, and demonstrated that the boundaries between individual minds were ultimately artificial constructs that could be transcended while maintaining personal identity. But why share this knowledge with us? Maya managed to think through the overwhelming flood of information. Because you have proven it can be used wisely, came the reply. Your species, both human and dragon, have shown that cooperation creates strength rather than weakness, that diversity enhances rather than diminishes consciousness. You can be trusted to use transcendent awareness in service of all rather than just yourselves. The encounter lasted only hours in objective time, but subjectively it felt like years of teaching, learning, and transformation. When the ancient vessel finally departed, fading back into whatever dimensional spaces it normally inhabited, Maya and Zephyra found themselves fundamentally changed. We need to return to new synthesis, Zephyra said, her mental voice carrying overtones of urgency and excitement. The knowledge we've gained, it changes everything. The journey back gave them time to process what they had experienced and plan how to share the ancients' teachings responsibly. The consciousness enhancement techniques alone could revolutionize medicine, education, and communication throughout the galaxy. But, the deeper implications, the possibility of transcending individual consciousness while maintaining personal identity, would require careful consideration and gradual implementation. We can't just announce that we've learned how to merge minds across species, Maya said as they reviewed their plans. That kind of revelation could cause panic or create dangerous power imbalances. But, we can begin with small demonstrations, Zephyra replied. Show how enhanced consciousness cooperation can solve problems that traditional approaches cannot. Let the benefits speak for themselves. Their return to new synthesis coincided with the city's official opening ceremony, an event that brought together representatives from hundreds of civilizations to celebrate the first truly universal community. Maya and Zephyra participated in the ceremonies while quietly planning how to introduce the ancients' teachings. The first practical application came during a crisis that erupted within hours of the opening celebration. A massive solar flare from the nearby star threatened to disrupt the delicate environmental balance that made new synthesis habitable for its diverse population. Traditional protective measures would take days to implement, time they didn't have. This is exactly the kind of challenge the ancients prepared us for, Maya told Zephyra as they rushed to the Crisis Coordination Center. Multiple species, each with different needs, facing a problem that requires immediate coordinated action. Using the consciousness enhancement techniques they had learned, Maya and Zephyra established psychic links with key representatives from each species group. The process was exhausting and required careful modulation to avoid overwhelming minds that weren't prepared for direct consciousness contact, but the results were remarkable. Instead of the usual confusion of competing priorities and communication delays that plagued multi-species crisis response, the enhanced coordination allowed for instantaneous information sharing and decision-making. Solutions emerged that no single species could have conceived, implementations happened with unprecedented efficiency, and the crisis was resolved in hours rather than days. How did you do that? Asked Dr. Vexhai, the Centaurian crisis coordinator, after the immediate danger had passed. I've never experienced coordination like that. It was as if we were all thinking with one mind while remaining ourselves. Maya and Zephyra exchanged glances, recognizing the moment they had been preparing for. We've been researching advanced consciousness cooperation techniques, Maya replied carefully. Would you be interested in learning more? What followed was the gradual introduction of consciousness enhancement technology throughout New Synthesis and the broader ACE network. The techniques were presented as natural extensions of existing cooperation methods, with careful attention to consent and gradual adaptation that allowed individuals to maintain their personal identity while gaining access to enhanced mental capabilities. The results exceeded even the ancients' predictions. Species that had never been able to communicate effectively discovered they could share concepts directly through consciousness interfaces. Scientific research accelerated dramatically as teams could literally share knowledge and insights in real time. Even artistic expression flourished as creators could experience their work from multiple perspectives simultaneously. "We're witnessing the birth of a new form of consciousness," Dr. Jensen observed during one of her research presentations. "Not the loss of individuality that many feared, but its enhancement through voluntary connection with others." The transformation wasn't limited to New Synthesis or even to ACE facilities. News of the consciousness enhancement techniques spread throughout the galaxy, inspiring similar research and development efforts by dozens of civilizations. Some approaches were more successful than others, but the general trend was clear: the galaxy was evolving toward a new form of cooperative consciousness that maintained the benefits of diversity while enabling unprecedented levels of coordination and understanding. Maya and Zephyra found themselves at the center of this transformation, serving as teachers, guides, and living examples of what transcendent consciousness could achieve. Their partnership had evolved from a simple rescue mission to a revolutionary force that was reshaping the fundamental nature of civilization throughout known space. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you had just filed a standard survey report and left me to die?" Zephyra asked during one of their rare quiet moments together aboard Harmony's Dawn. Maya smiled, watching the lights of New Synthesis sparkle against the stars like a jeweled web connecting multiple worlds. "I think the galaxy would be a much lonelier, much smaller place. But I also think that somehow, someway, we would have found each other anyway. Some connections are too important to be left to chance." Their flame bond had evolved far beyond the simple ritual that had first connected them. They now shared not just thoughts and emotions but entire layers of consciousness that spanned multiple dimensions of awareness. Yet they remained fundamentally themselves, Maya with her human curiosity and determination, Zephyra with her dragon wisdom and intuitive understanding of cosmic harmonies. "The ancients told us this was just the beginning," Zephyra said, her mental voice carrying undertones of wonder and anticipation. "What do you think comes next?" Maya extended her consciousness outward, feeling the vast network of connections that now linked minds across dozens of star systems. Humans working with dragons, Centaurians collaborating with crystal singers, ethereals sharing knowledge with mechanical intelligences, all connected through the consciousness enhancement techniques that had grown from a simple act of compassion. "I think we helped the galaxy become what it's always had the potential to be," Maya replied. "A place where everyone belongs, where every mind has value, where differences create strength rather than division." In the distance, new ships were arriving at New Synthesis, vessels carrying representatives from species that had never participated in galactic civilization before, drawn by reports of a place where any form of consciousness could find acceptance and purpose. Each arrival brought new challenges, new opportunities, and new possibilities for the ever-expanding network of cooperative awareness. Maya and Zephyra prepared to greet these new arrivals, ready to help them find their place in the growing community of minds that spanned the galaxy. Their journey from a chance encounter in an abandoned mine to becoming architects of transcendent consciousness had been extraordinary, but they both knew it was really just the beginning. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders yet to be discovered, minds yet to be connected, and possibilities yet to be realized. And wherever the next challenge appeared, wherever someone needed help bridging the gap between different forms of consciousness, ACE would be there, proving again and again that the impossible was just another word for exciting. The future stretched ahead of them like an infinite canvas, ready to be painted with the combined imagination of every thinking being in the galaxy. And, at the center of it all was the simple truth that had started their journey: everyone deserved a chance to discover their worth, everyone had something valuable to contribute, and no one should have to face the darkness alone. Together, they had turned a galaxy of isolated species into a community of connected consciousness. Together, they would guide that community toward whatever wonders awaited among the stars.